We want to go back to that breaking news that we were following out of St. Paul, Minnesota. We want to take you now to our content partners, Care 11, continuing to follow this breaking news, federal agent activity in St. Paul. Let's take a listen into what's being said.
We've got, stop deporting our neighbors here right now here, and, some other signs here. Obviously, like I said, this has prompted quite the reaction from folks in the neighborhood here this morning here. We'll turn around here. This is about mid-block here. You can kind of see the amount of folks that have gathered out here. Obviously, this activity has touched off a lot of anxiety and some frustration with neighbors here. In fact, I want to show you here right now, because we showed you that video earlier of the OC spray being deployed here. These are bottles of water that folks were using to wash eyes out here. We saw one woman who is apparently suffering from asthma. She was in a little bit of respiratory distress here. If you've ever been hit with this stuff, it is not pleasant. It really burns the throat and the eyes here, and especially because we've got a very misty, foggy morning here in St. Paul. The spray does carry a bit. It carries a little more distance here than it normally would.
Dave, we appreciate you showing us that scene, because it is going on for several blocks now, or for that area. You said it's also behind the house. I'm curious, because we've seen the protesters, Dave. How many federal agents have you seen? How many cars are there? Is this a large presence?
Lauren, I would say it's maybe a couple of dozen federal agents in total here.
A couple dozen. So it's a reasonable presence. Yeah. It's a pretty large presence.
It's a reasonable presence here, yes. There's definitely more protesters than there are federal agents on scene, I can tell you that.
Yeah, so it is, but it is a relatively large presence. It's not one or two agents. This is a crowd.
This is, yeah.
Dave, I'm wondering, maybe we can take up the map right now just to orient our viewers as to where we are at that 600 Rose Avenue East in St. Paul. Yeah. That's near Maryland Avenue. It's near Payne Avenue. Just to give you a sense of that neighborhood. You know, it is a neighborhood that has an immigrant community in St. Paul. It's near a local library, near a local church. Just so people know where we're talking about.
And Lauren, this is also a very densely populated neighborhood here, too. I mean, there's a lot of families in this neighborhood here. This is not like, say uptown where you have apartment buildings, but this is a lot of families with homes here. Some folks are concerned, obviously, about those chemicals coming into their homes here and what they might be being exposed to here. But yeah, as you said, we're about midway between 35E and Arcade Street. So again, if you're familiar with this area here, we're just to the northeast of downtown St. Paul here.
Well, Dave, I'm going to let you go now to do some more gathering of news, find out what's happening, see what you can learn. We appreciate your reporting out there as one of the first journalists on the scene. So thank you for keeping us up to date. We will likely check back with you in just a bit.
All right. Thank you.
All right, to update those of you who are just joining us, we are on the scene of what appears to be an ICE raid at the 600 block of Rose Avenue in St. Paul. As we were saying, that is near Maryland and Payne Avenues. This is the live scene. Here's the map right now to just again show you where this is. Dave Peterlins, our photojournalist who we've been talking to on the scene, tells us he's seen around 24 federal agents out there. We have confirmed at least some of those agents are from ICE, Immigration's Enforcement. And then there are many more protesters out there who you see on screen right now. Again, this is a live picture. The federal agents appear to be focused on a residential home there, not a business, as we saw last week in St. Paul. And these protesters have gathered on the scene, alerted via social media channels that this was happening. So they have come to try and prevent ICE activity and to certainly protest it. I want to show you some video from a little bit earlier that Dave Peterlins was able to capture. Now, what you see here is a line of St. Paul police, and Dave did confirm these are St. Paul police, and you see them spraying tear gas at a line of protesters. What Dave tells us is that those protesters were trying to essentially create a human chain to block access to the home, and St. Paul police, who seem to be on scene there doing crowd control, deployed these chemical irritants, and you can see protesters there wiping their eyes. There are water bottles on the floors. They've been trying to rinse out their eyes here on this scene in St. Paul. We have reached out at KARE 11 to St. Paul Police. We've reached out to ICE. We've reached out to the U.S. Marshals. So far, we have no update from any of them. St. Paul Police tell me in a text a short while ago that they're working to get a handle on what's happening and get some facts. They're going to bring it to us as soon as possible. Mayor Carter, we're just told, is on scene right now. He told us no comment. And I want to just sort of give a sense of the significance of St. Paul being on scene. 1 week ago, there was an ICE raid at a business in St. Paul called Brotex. At that point, around a dozen people were detained by ICE. And at that point, there was a violent interaction between federal agents and protesters. There were projectiles being thrown. There were pushing and shoving, and then those chemical irritants. But at that point, St. Paul Police was not at all involved. And Mayor Carter, who also came to that scene, was very clear that St. Paul will not assist in federal immigration enforcement or raids. So it is interesting to me to see St. Paul Police on scene here, though they may be doing crowd enforcement, as we have seen in Minneapolis occur. But that is something we're going to want to get more details from Mayor Carter about when he is willing to speak to us about it, because that is a controversial step for people who are opposed to ICE raids in our cities, is local police being involved in any sort of way. Of course, it is controversial on the other side as well, as people who support the actions of ICE and the federal government would prefer that local law enforcement assist. So again, here is a live picture of the scene. We have several crews on scene, including Dave Peterlins, who was just out trying to gather more information. Dave, I'm wondering if there's anything new you can tell us.
Yeah, so Lauren, as we spoke here just a few minutes ago, the scene here has it is relatively quiet at the moment here. In fact, we got some more folks here slowly trickling in here to the scene here. Obviously, as you said, folks have found out about this through social media, so folks are slowly descending on this part of the Payne-Phelan neighborhood here. But yeah, we'll show you here right now. It is really, at this point, as I said earlier, a standoff a little bit here. Protesters are staying in their area at the moment here. Police are in their area here. There's been no confrontations here, at least within the last 15, 20 minutes or so. It's a very different scene from that video that we showed you when we joined you here.
Looks like we've lost Dave Peterlin's signal.
Yep.
He's been out there doing great work, reporting, one of the first journalists on the scene, bringing us this information and this video of tear gas being deployed on protesters. Did I hear Dave? Is he back with us?
Lauren, I'm back with you here.
Okay. Sorry, your signal cut out for just a moment. Continue what you were saying.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing is people are trying to get a hold of me here, and unfortunately that breaks our live stream here. So yeah, just to kind of reset things here, as you've been saying here, we're in the 600 block of Rose here right now. And again, the situation at this point is it is relatively calm here. We're not seeing some of the confrontations that we saw earlier here. We're not seeing any more tear gas or OC spray being deployed on the crowd here. And I don't know if we can show that video here. We've gone back to it a couple of times here, but I want to show you here. This is the scene here about maybe an hour ago here. That line of St. Paul police officers pushing the crowd that had gathered here to protest federal agents in this neighborhood here. What we were told is that there was allegedly some sort of medical emergency going on in the house that agents have been in and out of here, and St. Paul police were trying to push people back.
Dave, we lost your
Our
signal
signal
again.
there for a second here.
Okay. But Dave, I do have a question about that, if I can interrupt
Yes.
real quick. You've talked about this medical emergency that they were trying to push protesters back. Have you seen an ambulance or anyone brought out of the house? Any sort of medics dealing with a medical emergency?
I have not seen any medics here. That doesn't mean they're not here, because we're on the Rose Avenue side here. Up on the other side of me is Maryland Avenue here. And so there's obviously some more space. They can bring an ambulance, that St. Paul Fire can bring their medics in here to try to deal with that alleged situation here.
All right, Dave, thank you again for that update. We'll let you go continue to gather information and video. Hopefully we can keep this live picture up so we can keep an eye on what's happening there. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Again, that was photojournalist David Peterlins reporting from the 600 block of Rose Avenue in St. Paul. We've been following breaking news out there as what we believe and have confirmed to be an ICE raid in that St. Paul neighborhood has again prompted protesters to gather. Here's again a live picture at the scene there. We're a little ways back. You can see a fairly large crowd gathered surrounding a house. That appears to be the subject of this raid, according to our journalists on the scene. Federal agents entering this house at the 600 block of Rose Avenue East in St. Paul. To give you a sense on the map, but you can't really see the other street names, it is just south of Maryland Avenue, just west of Payne Avenue, in that St. Paul neighborhood. And the federal agents who've been there, what we know from our crews on the scene is that they have not seen any video of people being detained by the federal agents. We have not seen anyone brought out of that house. They do say that David Peterlins, our photojournalist, saw roughly 24 federal agents there in their cars. Again, CARE has confirmed at least some of those agents are from ICE, Immigration Enforcement, but again, has not seen anyone arrested or detained by those agents at this moment. In this moment, it does appear relatively peaceful right now between the protesters who have gathered and the agents on scene, but we do have video from earlier of St. Paul police tear gassing protesters who were attempting, Dave Peterlins says, to form, it appeared, a human chain to prevent people from getting into the house, and St. Paul police said that there was a medical emergency, so they needed people to move away. We are working to get more information on this. Again, we have reached out to St. Paul police, we've reached out to ICE, we've reached out to the U.S. Marshals. Still no word yet, official confirmation or comment from any of those folks. But again, we have crews on the scene. We're going to continue to follow this, and if anything changes, we'll make sure to bring it to you first live here on KARE 11 News Now. Also, you can follow us on our app for your phone and on our newscasts at noon, 4, 5, and 6 today.
All right, so that was live coverage from our content partners there, KARE 11 there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, covering an apparent ICE raid there in the city. As soon as we get more updates, additional updates on what's unfolding there, we will bring that to you here live on Live Impact News. But for now, let's take a break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.